Welcome. Today we are looking at lesson one, premature eviction of Mary, and we'll be working with fractions, percentages, and decimals. This is the adult math course. My name is Alton Felix, and we'll be working along with our math expert, Jerry, who has volunteered his answer alongside our case brief, our question. I've decided to do it this way because it will save us time in terms of writing, and therefore it will reduce the time of this video. We don't want to make it too long. So Jerry started off by presenting the information on the case, and all the important information is stated there. In part A of the question, we are asked if Mary rent is $1,500 per month, calculate the amount of rent she lost because she left early by May the 17th. So Jerry is saying that effectively Mary would have lost 14 days. And let's see what would be the daily amount of rent that Mary would be paying. So if the total number of days are 31 days, then effectively what is happening here is that Mary's daily rent can be worked out by dividing the monthly rent, which is $1,500 divided by 31 days. And that will effectively give us a daily rent of $48 and around 39 cents. So therefore, if she is paying on average $48.39 per day and she lost 14 days, it means that the total amount of rent loss can be calculated by multiplying the daily rent, here it is, by the number of days lost. So when you do that, you end up with about 677.4193. Now, of course, we are working with dollars and cents, so we can round off to two decimal places that answer as 677.42. Let us take 1 minute or less, and let's see if we can explain how we ended up with 677.42 as our rounded figure. Now, remember, we'll be doing further lessons on rounding. So therefore, I just want to take 1 minute and show you how we got that answer. Now, if you look at your number, 677.41935, and you are asked to round this number to two decimal places. The 2 refers to the number of digits after the point, and therefore to determine if that last digit 1 will go up by 1 to give you 42 will be determined by the next digit which follows. Now, the golden rule is if that next digit is 5 or more, you would add 1 to the previous digit, which happens to be 1. So that is the case. So therefore, your rounded answer will be 677.42. So that is the amount of rent that Mary would have lost. Now, I like this approach that Jerry took. And Jerry worked out first the daily rent and then multiply that figure by the remaining days lost, which is 14. Another approach, which will be equally correct, is if you took 14 out of 31 and you multiply that by the rent for the month. Now, let's quickly work out that sum and see if we get something resembling Jerry's answer. So you take 14 divided by 31, and then you multiply that by 1,500. Yes, so we did get 677.42 as suggested by our expert witness. The second part of the question, we are asked to find the fraction of the month in days which she lost. Well, we worked that out already in our previous explanation. Seeing that Mary left on the 17th, she would have lost 14 days. So the fraction that she would have lost would be 14 divided by 31, which is exactly what Jerry has here. So that answer is correct. Express the lost portion of the month as a percentage. So we are looking at how we actually move from fraction to percentages to decimals. So this is a nice question to test that understanding. Now, do not be afraid to use your calculator. If you have a fraction and you want to convert that fraction to a percentage, you multiply by 100. And that is the meaning of the word percentage. You would have heard the word percent, and that simply means out of 100. And Jerry's working. Let's see what Jerry's got. Jerry has here 14 out of 31 multiplied by 100, 45.16. Now, couple things. Let's look at Jerry's answer, 45.161. Do you remember how to round this to 2 decimal places? You consider the 1 and the 6, that's 2 digits after the point, and you take a further look at the 3rd digit. Now notice, unlike our first example, this digit here is less than 5, so your final answer remains, as Jerry wrote, 45.16%. Well done, Jerry. Now, notice what Jerry also did as an alternative to working 14 out of 31 multiplied by 100. Jerry first expressed 14 out of 31 as a decimal. And again, the calculator will ably assist with this working as well. You simply take 14 divided by 31, and that's your answer. And then you multiply that to get your percentage by 100. And that will give us the final answer of 45.16, corrected 2 decimal places. Well done, Jerry. So we are moving along nicely. We are on the final part of this question for today. And we need to express the lowest portion of the rent as a decimal. So if we identify, in this case, that the total rent is $1,500, that's the monthly rent, and we previously calculated the lowest portion of the rent as $677.42. When we express this as a decimal, let's see what we get, and let's compare our answer with Jerry's. So 677.42 divided by 1,500, 0.4516. Now we expect that to be the same as the equivalent fraction, same as 14 over 31, right? Because notice this here represents the lost rent over the total, and this lost rent over the total corresponds to the lost days over the total number of days. So what you have here is an example of what we call equivalent fractions. One fraction and another fraction, both of them give the same answer. Now, notice that from our working, let's just highlight those 2 answers which we would have seen previously. 14 divided by 31 up here is 0.4516, And then when we put our loss rent over the total, we get basically the same answer, 0.4516, and so on. So that brings us to the end of our first lesson, where we look at premature eviction. So I hope to see you next time when we discuss lesson 2 right here at the adult math course. Thank you so much for taking the time to view this video. Bye.